It's not something that I feel like I would honestly even partake in that commencement. I don't see myself being there.
And Ebokian sees Biden's visit as a campaign stop and a political tool in an election year.
At the end of the day, this is kind of like something that's on his political agenda to kind of maybe get more young black voters or something.
New CBS polling shows President Biden's approval rating has dipped among younger Americans. 43% of Americans aged 18 to 29 approve of the president's performance, and that's down from 55% in February. CBS News campaign reporter Torian Small joins us from Boone, North Carolina. Torian, I know you've been reporting on how younger voters are viewing this election. Historically, Democratic candidates do well with younger voters, tend to win them over, but Biden appears to be slipping here. From what you can tell, what's behind this decline?
Yeah, some of the same things that Anthony Savanto also mentioned today. A real sticking point is the president's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. A lot of folks that I talked to today say that they're looking for him to be a little bit more aggressive in calls for ceasefire, not just for a temporary pause for humanitarian relief, but also something a little bit more permanent. They're willing to draw a line in the sand, but I often ask, when is the pivot point? Is this something to the young voters that I talked to today, is this something that they're willing to take to November? A few of them said they're still on the fence. A lot of them are vehemently against Donald Trump, but they're not sure if their dislike for Donald Trump overweighs this moral dilemma that they're facing as it relates to the Israel-Hamas war.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about some more major bad news for Joe Biden, okay, who is so disliked among young people that he can't even speak at a college campus. That is something that is unheard of, right? For a Democrat not to be able to speak at a college campus, okay, a liberal, progressive university, he's in deep trouble, right? He's in deep, deep, deep trouble because we have this story that just came out about how the historically black college of Morehouse, they are revolting, right? The faculty and the students over Biden's commencement invite, right? Some even refusing to sit with the president of the United States. And again, this spells a disaster for Joe Biden because these are the people that he needs to show up to vote for him in order for him to win. And if these people are saying, hey, you know what? We don't even want this guy to speak at our college or university. You know that this could be a disaster for him when it comes to the election. Take a look.
Welcome back. So today, students and faculty at Morehouse College, they're divided. President Joe Biden has been selected to give the school's commencement speech next month. 11 Alive's Ariana Maniz has more on their concerns.
A campus divided over their commencement speaker, the President of the United States.
It's not something that I feel like I would honestly even partake in that commencement. I don't see myself being there.
However you feel about Biden, having a president be willing to speak at a graduation is a tremendous honor.
Students of Morehouse College are split on the announcement that President Biden will deliver its commencement address on May 19th.
Camaraderie and brotherhood that comes along with just being a Morehouse student.
Raymond Mbokian is a sophomore at Morehouse College. He says due to the president's support of Israel in the Israeli-Hamas war, he doesn't support Biden speaking at the college.
Conflict that's going on with Israel and Palestine, and kind of you having our president supporting Israel. At the end of the day, this is kind of like something that's on his political agenda to kind of maybe get more young black voters.
Biden's address at Morehouse comes as he campaigns for a second term in the White House against former President Donald Trump. This is Biden's third time delivering a commencement speech at an HBCU. The president addressed South Carolina State graduates in 2021, and last year he delivered the commencement address at Howard University.
He's a leader of an entire country, and he has a bit, and that is not an easy job, no matter how strong of will you are.
Meanwhile, other students say they're looking forward to the honor of the president speaking to graduates despite the current political climate.
Willing to speak at graduation ceremony at HBCU.
Our thanks to Ariana Maniz for that report. So this decision has also raised some objections from faculty members and administrators who will host a forum about it on Thursday. Students would also engage with the college's president, David Thomas.
Right now, I'm being told that we need to use our platform as Morehouse men Why are we using it to support someone who hasn't been supporting Palestine and Gaza and things like that? How are we being global cosmopolitan citizens? What precedent does that set for freshmen?
There's a possibility of a genocide happening, and we're seeing our government continually sending more and more weapons, 2,000-pound bombs that are being dropped on whole neighborhoods, schools being destroyed, hospitals being destroyed.
We condemn what's happening, man. Children is dying, innocent people being blown up, and you can see the videos, and you can't deny the videos. And we don't condemn that. You say, well, the world might not see it as, oh, we complicit. You know, we see it as we complicit. We the students telling you, we see it as that's being complicit. Do y'all see that as complicit?
Yes, sir.
Yes. That's complicit. That's complicit in genocide. Do you think it's a genocide or not? Let me just ask a question everybody wants to hear. Do you think it's a genocide, or do you not think it's a genocide what's happening in Gaza? Simple yes or no. Solomon, yes or no? Is it a genocide or not? Of your personal, professional opinion, as an educator, as a man in this country, what do you think? Are the people of Gaza being genocided, or are they not?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? There is some major backlash against Joe Biden because of this Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, here's the thing, right? I want to say this. I think personally that it is glorious to see the Democrats facing what is the equivalent of what Republicans face during the BLM riots, okay? Remember back in 2020 when the Democrats were out here radicalizing and emboldening these individuals to protest and to make their voices heard. And again, in some cases, they were committing acts of violence and burning down cities. Democrats turned a blind eye to it because it benefited them politically. Now, fast forward to 2024, they're getting the equivalent of that when it comes to the pro-Palestine protests, except this time, it is happening to Democrats, right? They're the ones suffering the consequences, okay? I think it's just so crazy to me, and it's also funny too, how Democrats are facing the consequences of a monster that they created, okay? They're responsible for what's happening, right? So, you know, this is just another example of how the pendulum always swings the other way in politics. But one of the reasons why I'm covering this story is because it gives me an opportunity to expand on a conversation I was having yesterday about the Vivek Ramaswamy, Tucker Carlson, and Ben Shapiro debate around the morality of the U.S.'s foreign policy, okay? Because these individuals are protesting over the morality of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians in Gaza. However, none of these people are coming at it from an America first perspective, in the sense that they're not concerned about what Israel is doing and whether or not that aligns with America's best interest, okay? And to me personally, I think it's disappointing to see college students more concerned about the morality of a conflict overseas, that the conflict in and of itself doesn't have much to do with America. Now, the geopolitical consequences of the conflict do affect America, and I'm going to get into that. But again, it's just fascinating to me how nobody is concerned about the actual effect on America, right? You have these college students who don't really seem to care about the fact that Joe Biden has a terrible economy, that crime is up under these Democrats, that our borders are open. They don't care about real issues having to do with America domestically. And then when it comes to this foreign conflict, their concern is about the morality of it more so than, again, the broader geopolitical consequences. Because again, I was talking about this yesterday in regards to how, you know, there's this big debate about the morality of dropping atomic bombs on Japan and whether or not America should have done that. Was it necessary to end the war with Japan in World War II? And I argue that personally, I don't think that foreign policy or geopolitics is moral, right? I think that for the most part, it is amoral, and I don't think that you can be concerned with morality or have morality be a chief concern of yours and protect your people, okay? Because as a leader, you're going to have to make decisions that are morally questionable to protect your people, because honestly, that is how foreign policy kind of works. That has been the history of the world, in the sense that the strong survive and the weak don't. And who am I to question the morality of what is happening with Israel and Palestine when it appears to me that both parties, regardless of who you support, To me, I don't think that they have shown the ability to be able to live together peacefully. I don't think that there's going to be a resolution to that conflict because both parties want to wipe each other out. So for me to sit here and to have this moral argument about whether or not it's right or wrong, I think personally, from the perspective of what's in America's best interest, is a waste of time. Okay, because again, I think both parties want to wipe each other out, and they're not going to stop fighting each other until that happens. That's what I personally believe about both sides of that conflict. I think when you talk about what's happening with Israel and Palestine and Hamas, the most relevant question when it comes to America's interests is not the morality of it, but more so, what does it mean for America geopolitically to support Israel's operations in Gaza? Okay, we support what Israel's doing, which is resulting in the loss of life of a lot of innocent civilians. And then on top of that, they're conducting these broader operations in Syria and Lebanon that have led to escalations with Iran. And I guess people can argue that Iran is trying to escalate with Israel by supporting groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and some of these, groups that, again, want to destroy Israel. So I get it. I'm just saying that when it comes to Israel's operations in Gaza and what they're doing, it's definitely leading to an escalation, right? It is leading us to a global conflict involving Iran. And is it in America's best interest to support Israel in their offensive operations that could potentially escalate the conflict to a war with Iran? I think that is the actual relevant question, right? We spend too much time talking about the morality of what they're doing rather than asking the question of how does it benefit America to support what Israel is doing? Okay, I think that's a more relevant question. What we've seen here is that things are escalating between Israel and Iran. And if there was a full-scale war between Iran and Israel, I definitely think that means that U.S. troops would be on the ground, right? Is it in America's best interest to fund and support Israel's operations in Gaza that are leading to broader conflicts? Or should we try to encourage Israel to de-escalate to avoid a broader war? These are conversations I think that need to be had, but we're too busy focused on everything else, right? Like the morality of it, more so than, okay, is this in America's best interest, right? I think that that's the relevant conversation to be had, okay? Because I personally feel like if we're going to be sending money to support Israel, then we need to make sure that that money is not dragging us into a broader war that is not in America's best interest. We got to make sure that, okay, if we're going to give you money, you need to do what's in our best interest, right? We shouldn't be doing what's in your best interest because we support you, right? We don't need Israel as much as Israel needs us, okay? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have Israel as an ally and as a partner, but I'm just saying you got to understand who is the top dog in this relationship. Is it Israel or is it the United States of America? Okay. It seems as if Israel is the top dog when it comes to how the politicians act, right? It seems like we need Israel more than they need us, even though I don't think that that is the case. And I think that we should be the ones that are dictating what Israel does rather than the other way around, okay? And, hey, if they feel like they want to do what they want to do, I don't think that we should be forced to support it if it does not align with America's interests. I don't think that by definition, Israel's best interests are America's best interests, okay? But again, these are not the arguments that are being made by the left, okay? Biden's basically trying to force a ceasefire, not because he's making an argument that, hey, it's in America's best interest. He's making an argument that, well, it's in our best interest as Democrats, okay? Because we want to get reelected, which again, I think is silly. His base is making an argument that, well, Israel should issue a ceasefire because of morality, right? We don't want to see a genocide. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, Hamas attacked Israel, on October 7th, killing thousands of their people. Who am I to tell Israel that they shouldn't do what they have to do in order to protect their people to make sure that never happens again? Again, it goes back to that conversation about should the United States have dropped a nuke on Japan? And it's like, well, Japan attacked us first. And if you're going to attack us first, you don't get to dictate how the war ends or whether or not your civilization gets annihilated because you attacked us first, right? Again, you should just be thankful that we don't do it, okay? So, at the end of the day, I'm just saying, like, for me personally, I think that this conversation about morality is really getting in the way of looking at it from the perspective that we should look at it, which is, okay, what is in America's best interest? Okay, if you're going to make the argument for ceasefire, make it from an America first perspective. Don't make it from a morality perspective, because again, who am I to tell Israel that they can't defend themselves and how they're supposed to defend themselves? I mean, again, that's their own nation. But we can say, as the United States of America, that, hey, you defending yourself is not in America's best interest, because you are dragging us into a broader conflict, a war that is not good for the American people and maybe not even good for our partnerships with your Arab neighbors. Maybe this war is not even good for Israel in the long term, if Israel basically makes everybody around them hate them because they wiped out the Palestinians. And that doesn't mean that we should not help Israel defend itself if they're truly defending themselves. But when it gets to the point where their defense is dragging us into a broader conflict, I think it is right to question whether or not we should support that, because ultimately that's not good for America. But it is good that we don't allow Israel to be overrun by Islamic extremists. Yeah, I think that is in America's best interest for sure. So I don't necessarily have a problem helping them do that. And that is a lot cheaper than helping them be on the offensive. Then your argument not only becomes relevant to America and America first, it actually becomes stronger, in my opinion, right? I think that is probably the strongest argument that you could make to support a ceasefire from an America first perspective, because I think there is questions about whether or not supporting Israel, funding them no matter what, right? Putting Israel first is actually America first, right? I'm not sure if you can put Israel first and America first, right? So my disappointment is that, first and foremost, it seems like our elections are going to be decided by support for foreign conflicts rather than what's actually going on here in this country, which I think is really a shame. But then also on top of that, when it comes to the arguments around this foreign conflict, it seems as if nobody's really looking at it from the perspective of, well, what is best for America? Okay, it seems to me that on the left, again, Democrats are more concerned about themselves, right? The left is more concerned about the Palestinians, and on the right, the concern is about the Israelis. But the argument in support of Israel and what they're doing, it seems to be more grounded in religion and this idea that we must support Israel no matter what, regardless of what they do, even if it's not in America's best interest. But at the same time, the neocon version of what is in America's best interest seems to be, okay, what is in the best interest of the defense manufacturers, okay, and always trying to feed the machine that gives the politicians the kickbacks that they need in order to get elected, right? I mean, that to me is my biggest issue with this, is that the arguments around what's happening with Israel and Palestine are more grounded in things that don't have to do with, okay, what is best for America. It's about, well, what's best for Israel and whether or not what Israel is doing is moral. And that, to me, I think is irrelevant to what is good for the American people, which is why I think this conversation really should be focused. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.